Hey guys, welcome to the Bitcoin Fortress podcast, helping you increase your financial freedom. This is episode 114, recorded here on May 5th, 2024. This podcast is for entertainment only and is not investing advice, so please do your own homework. Okay, well, we got a lot of top Bitcoin news this week to go over. So I'm going to jump right in with the market update and outlook. An eventful 5 trading days for Wall Street saw the benchmark S&P 500 post back-to-back weekly gains. Sentiment was helped by a Federal Reserve that was much more dovish than expected at its latest monetary policy decision on Wednesday, and a significantly cooler than anticipated non-farm payrolls report released Friday. The latter was especially cheered by investors, as stubborn resilience in the labor market has been one of the Fed's key concerns. Darn it, we need more unemployment. Aside from the central bank, this week also saw one of the busiest stretches of the first quarter earnings season, with Amazon and Apple being the two most notable names that reported their results. Both tech giants delivered, and Apple in particular shook markets with the unveiling of a record 110 billion buyback. For the week, the S&P 500 added 0.6%, the blue chip Dow rose 1.1%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq climbed 1.4%. Looking ahead, Wall Street will get a slight amount of relief next week, as both the economic calendar and the first quarter earnings season will lighten up somewhat. Market participants will be looking ahead to Monday's Senior Loan Officer Opinion Survey from the Federal Reserve to assess credit conditions in the economy. Also in focus will be Friday's University of Michigan preliminary consumer sentiment data for May. Many major companies, including members of the Magnificent Seven, have already reported their results. Still, next week has a few notable names on tap, including theme park and entertainment giant Disney, meat processor Tyson Foods, and ride-hailing behemoth Uber. Meanwhile, some of the spotlight will be garnered by Apple. The tech major is scheduled to hold a special event on Tuesday to showcase new iPad products and hardware accessories. All right, jumping into the top Bitcoin news for the week. So this first one here is from CoinDesk. This was updated on May 3rd. Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF sees first inflow after billions lost since January. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, the largest Bitcoin ETF by assets, saw a net inflow of new money from investors, according to Farside Investors, the first daily increase since the product debuted in January. A net $63 million was added on Friday, according to Farside's tally. The Grayscale product had been the dominant conventional investment vehicle for those looking to invest in Bitcoin without directly purchasing the cryptocurrency, but it got competition in January when it was converted into an easier-to-trade ETF. At the same time, 9 rival spot Bitcoin ETFs began trading. GBTC has much higher fees, and investors yanked billions of dollars from it. Its Bitcoin holdings have dropped from more than 600,000 Bitcoin to around 290,000 Bitcoin, according to fund data compiled by CoinDesk. While the Friday inflow ends the streak of the net GBTC withdrawals, iShares Bitcoin Trust is challenging the fund for the title of biggest Bitcoin ETF. GBTC now has 18.1 billion in assets versus IBIT's 16.9 billion. IBIT, now in second place, started at 0 in January, while GBTC had more than 26 billion. So anyway, that was kind of interesting news. Next is also from CoinDesk. This was posted on May 2nd. BlackRock sees sovereign wealth funds, pensions coming to Bitcoin ETFs. Don't be fooled by the first break in inflows into spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds after 71 straight days. The current lull is likely to be followed by a new wave from a different type of investor, said Robert Mitchnick, head of digital assets for BlackRock, the world's largest asset management company. Coming months could see financial institutions such as sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, and endowments start to trade in the spot ETFs, Mitchnick said in an interview. The firm is seeing a reinitiation of the discussion around Bitcoin, which turns on the topic of allocating to Bitcoin and how to think about it from a portfolio construction perspective. Many of these interested firms, whether we're talking about pensions, endowments, sovereign wealth funds, insurers, other asset managers, family offices, are having ongoing diligence and research conversations, and we're playing a role from an education perspective, Mitchnick said. And the interest is not new. BlackRock has been talking about Bitcoin to these sorts of institutions for several years, he said. Pent-up demand for the much-anticipated ETFs has seen more than $76 billion accumulated across these products since their approval in January. So far, some registered investment advisors, a decent-sized subset of wealth advisory, are also offering BlackRock's IBIT ETF, but only on an unsolicited basis. The next step is expected to be the registering unrestricted offering of Bitcoin ETFs to clients of large wealth advisory players like Morgan Stanley. A lot of social media focus has been on the ETF assets under management horse race, and in particular, the comparison between IBIT and Grayscale's GBTC, which can be considered an incumbent because the existing BTC trust uplisted to an ETF. At last count, IBIT stood at 17.2 billion and GBTC at about 24.3 billion. A chunk of the current IBIT assets comes from Grayscale substitutions. Other sources could be inflows from higher-priced international products in Canada or Europe, and some of it comes from Bitcoin futures ETFs being recycled into spot products. There are existing Bitcoin holders who would rather own the cryptocurrency in a brokerage account and not have to worry about custody, tax reporting complexities, and other challenges associated with holding Bitcoin on an exchange, Mitchnick said. And while becoming the biggest spot Bitcoin ETF would be an impressive milestone, BlackRock isn't really focused on that competition, but rather on educating its clients, he said. And then it also talks about here that they filed for an Ethereum ETF, which we don't really care about. Actually, we don't really care too much about the Bitcoin ETFs either, other than from the perspective that it's interesting from an adoption standpoint. Obviously, the more these get marketed and the wider these are held, the more the conversation of Bitcoin comes up and hopefully causes people to want to learn more about it. And that's really the only reason why it's worth talking about what's going on with the ETFs is really it's just more of a, to me, an indicator of adoption. I wouldn't want to own these things. Full disclosure, I do have a little bit of the Fidelity one because I have a health savings account and it seemed like the best thing to put the money into. But beyond that, I think holding Bitcoin in self-custody is really the way to go. But again, it gives you a good indication of adoption. Next article, also from CoinDesk. They had quite a bit of interesting stuff this week. This one was posted on May 3rd. Jack Dorsey's block adding more Bitcoin to balance sheet presents roadmap to others. Payments firm Block, ticker symbol SQ, has begun a dollar cost averaging program to add to its already sizable Bitcoin stack. Led by CEO Jack Dorsey, the company in April began using 10% of its monthly Bitcoin-related gross profit to buy additional Bitcoin, with plans to do this each month for the remainder of 2024. For perspective, Block had $80 million in Bitcoin gross profit in the first quarter, according to its earnings results. Were that level of profit to continue through the rest of the year, the company under this program would add another $24 million worth of Bitcoin to its balance sheet. Block already has substantial Bitcoin holdings, having purchased 4,709 Bitcoins in October 2020 and another 3,318 tokens in early 2021. At today's price of about $59,000, that Bitcoin is now worth roughly $4.7 billion. Alongside that news, the company also released its Bitcoin blueprint for corporate balance sheets. There's a link here in the article if you want to click on it and check it out for yourself. It says, in which it describes the process through which it is able to acquire large amounts of the crypto without unduly moving the market, and how it custodies, insures, and accounts for the holdings. So good to see a little bit more adoption from Block, and maybe some other companies will take note. So then we're going to move into the Then They Fight You. There's a lot of follow-up news this week to some of the stuff I talked about last week, and some new stuff. So this first one here is also from Cointelegraph. This article was posted on May 4th. BTC-e founder pleads guilty in $9 billion money laundering conspiracy. Alexander Vinnik, the co-founder of the crypto exchange BTC-e, has pleaded guilty to money laundering conspiracy. This follows a broader investigation revealing extensive illegal activities on the exchange from 2011 to 2017. In a May 3rd press release, the United States Department of Justice stated that during Vinnik's leadership, BTC-e processed more than $9 billion in transactions and had a user base exceeding 1 million globally, with many users in the United States. The DOJ highlighted that the platform was utilized to launder funds acquired from various criminal activities, including computer hacking, ransomware attacks, and drug trafficking. According to the DOJ, an investigation revealed that BTC-e operated without essential legal compliance measures, including registration with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, and anti-money laundering AML, or Know Your Customer KYC protocols. These deficiencies made BTC-e popular among individuals seeking to conceal money transactions from law enforcement. Ah, yes, privacy, not okay. Additionally, Vinnik was discovered to have established numerous shell companies and financial accounts globally, enabling the illicit transfer of funds through BTC-e, resulting in criminal losses totaling at least $121 million. Vinnik has been embroiled in legal battles over the past 5 years for his alleged role as the mastermind behind BTC-e. The cryptocurrency exchange is said to have profited from various illicit activities that used the platform to launder some $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. Vinnik was arrested on money laundering charges in Greece in 2017 and was extradited to France in 2020. In France, Vinnik was cleared of ransomware allegations but was convicted of money laundering charges and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Vinnik's lawyers launched an unsuccessful appeal, claiming that Vinnik was just an exchange employee and had no involvement in illicit activities at BTC-e. After serving 2 years in a French prison, he was extradited to the U.S. on August 5, 2022. Vinnik, who is a Russian citizen, had earlier tried to secure a prisoner swap deal for him to be considered as part of a prisoner trade deal between Russia and the United States. U.S. authorities have brought similar criminal charges against crypto exchanges and executives. On March 28th, former FTX CEO Bankman-Fried was sentenced to 25 years for 7 felony charges. So, yeah, if you break the law in the United States, it doesn't matter where you live or what country you're a citizen of, they're going to get you. So, something to keep in mind. Next article. This is from No Bullshit Bitcoin, one of my favorite newsletters. Always has great signal. This one was posted on May 2nd. Federal prosecutors are still investigating, this is in quotes, Jack Dorsey's block for alleged gaps in compliance. So then they fight you. The report follows another mid-February article from the same author at NBC News claiming that 2 whistleblowers had told financial regulators about compliance failures at Cash App. There are obvious national security issues here, and it would be foolhardy for the public to think that regulators and law enforcement are keeping pace with the financial innovators, said Edward Seidel, a former SEC enforcement lawyer who represents the whistleblowers. The company said it believed it had voluntarily reported the thousands of transactions described by the former employee to the Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC, a department of the U.S. Treasury that enforces economic sanctions. But the former employee disputed saying thousands of different transactions were not reported. Block has a responsible and extensive compliance program, and we regularly adapt our practices to meet emerging threats and an evolving sanctions regulatory environment. Our compliance program includes systems, tools, and processes for sanctions screening, as well as investigating and reporting on sanctions issues in accordance with our regulatory obligations. Continually improving the safety and security of our ecosystem is a top priority for Block. We have been and remain committed to building upon this work as well as continuing to invest significantly in our compliance program, said the company's spokeswoman. Regulatory scrutiny on the company began in early 2023 with a report by short-selling firm Hindenburg Research accusing Block of misleading investors on key metrics and embraced predatory offerings and compliance worst practices in order to fuel growth and profit from facilitation of fraud against consumers and the government. The regulators are also putting pressure on Block's partner banking institutions. Per NBC, the Cash App's banking partner Sutton Bank settled a consent order with the FDIC that echoed the whistleblower's allegations. So all is not roses, sadly, for Block. Next up is also from No Bullshit Bitcoin. This was posted on April 30th. Roger Ver charged with mail fraud, tax evasion, and filing false tax returns. Ver is accused of neglecting to file tax returns on asset sales and failing to pay a United States exit tax on capital gains after he gave up U.S. citizenship and set up businesses and secured citizenship in St. Kitts and Nevis. So he tried to do the offshore plan, but he didn't do it right, I guess. The indictment claims that by June 2017, Ver's two U.S. registered companies, Memory Dealers and AgileStar, owned approximately 70,000 Bitcoin. In November 2017, Ver allegedly sold tens of thousands of them on cryptocurrency exchanges for approximately $240 million in cash. Even though Ver was not then a U.S. citizen, he was still legally required to report to the IRS and pay tax on certain distributions, such as dividends from Memory Dealers and AgileStar, which were U.S. corporations. Ver allegedly concealed from his accountant that he had received and sold Memory Dealers and AgileStar's Bitcoins that year. As a result, Ver's 2017 individual income tax return did not report any gain or pay any tax related to the distribution of Memory Dealers and AgileStar's Bitcoins to him, was stated in the press release. In total, Ver is alleged to have caused a loss to the IRS of at least $48 million, which was stated in the indictment. So, yeah, if you're going to go offshore, you better make sure you pay all your taxes because the U.S. government's going to take their last bite out of you with the exit tax. And then, then don't break any U.S. laws when you're no longer a U.S. citizen because they'll haul you back in and they'll get an extradition. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. Okay, and then you have this one is also from No Bullshit Bitcoin. This was posted on April 30th as well. Binance's founder, CZ, sentenced to 4 months in prison. Zhao received a significantly reduced sentence of 4 months from a Seattle federal court, much less than the 3-year term federal prosecutors were pursuing. There's no evidence that the defendant was ever informed of illegal activity at Binance. The court finds the defendant has accepted responsibility. Everything I see about you and your characteristics are of a mitigating nature, the judge said to Zhao before handing down the sentence. I think the first step to taking responsibility is to fully recognize the mistakes. Here I failed to fully set up a KYC program. I also recognize the importance of having a robust KYC AML program. That is why I directed Binance to cooperate with the U.S.'s investigation, Zhao said before hearing the judge's decision. In November, Zhao pleaded guilty to failing to implement necessary anti-money laundering measures at Binance. He also resigned as Binance CEO and committed to a $4.3 billion payment to settle alleged allegations. So he basically got a little slap on the wrist. Not anywhere near what not anywhere near what some other folks have gotten, but he'll be out in 4 months, and I think he's still quite wealthy, even though he had to cough up some money. So he'll be off to the races. But definitely not as severe as Sam Bankman-Fried, although Sam Bankman-Fried probably should have gotten 100 years. But oh well. Next up is also from No BS Bitcoin, April 29th. Samourai Wallet co-founder Keonne Rodriguez pleads not guilty, released on $1 million bond. So we talked about this last week. This is an update. Samourai Wallet co-founder Keonne Rodriguez pleaded not guilty to 2 criminal charges tied to creating and marketing the privacy-focused Bitcoin wallet and CoinJoin tools in a Manhattan courtroom on Monday. Rodriguez was initially arrested at approximately 6 a.m. at his home in Harmony, Pennsylvania on April 24th. A Pennsylvania judge subsequently released him on a $25,000 bond and ordered him to appear before a magistrate judge in the Southern District of New York on Monday morning. Today, the judge agreed to release Rodriguez on a $1 million bond, accepting the conditions outlined in a bail package that both federal prosecutors and Rodriguez's lawyers had agreed upon. Other than traveling to and from court proceedings, he will remain at home and will be monitored by location tracking technology. Rodriguez's next hearing will be in Manhattan on May 14th at 2 p.m. in front of District Judge Richard Berman. So we will continue to watch this with great interest as the attacks against self-sovereignty continue to mount. This one also from No BS Bitcoin, May 2nd. Senator Cynthia Lummis slams DOJ for hyper-aggressive stance on self-custody software. I'm deeply troubled by the Department of Justice's hyper-aggressive argument that non-custodial software can constitute a money transmission service, said Senator Cynthia Lummis in a statement. This stance contradicts existing Treasury guidance, common sense, and violates the rule of law. Arguments against self-custody software threaten the fundamental property rights that are core to being an American. I will do everything I can to fight for your rights to hold your own keys and run your own node, she added. So good. At least there's a voice in Congress. There's probably more than that, but this is definitely an attack on property rights. In fact, one of the things I think in the explanation that the DOJ put out, they said that you don't need to have custody in order to transmit money, much in the same way as that when you cook an egg on a pan, the heat is conducted through the pan to the egg to cook the egg. Or if you use a USB cable to connect your computer to another device, the information flows through the cable, even though the cable doesn't retain the information. I mean, it's just that crazy. So, once again, you have to turn to the courts to protect constitutional rights, and you just hope that it holds up. Next up is from Bitcoin.com. This was posted, was updated today. More than they fight you. This now is Nigeria. Nigeria mulls over banning. By the way, it's flip-flopped many times on crypto, Bitcoin, etc. Nigeria mulls over banning P2P crypto transactions now, so they want to try to outlaw that. Labels crypto trading as a national security concern. So it's really important, I think, to study what's happening in other countries in the world where they've got extremely corrupt governments, and they have collapsing currencies, and people are turning to Bitcoin to protect themselves, and how the government reacts to that, because it might not be tomorrow and it might not be for a few years, but it's coming to the West. So it's good to learn from this, I guess, as we see this play out. A recent Nigerian media report has suggested that authorities in the West African country are planning to ban regulated financial institutions from facilitating peer-to-peer cryptocurrency transactions. The report, citing anonymous sources, states that 3 fintech startups known for enabling such transactions have already been instructed to block and report these transactions to law enforcement. The speculation that Nigeria plans to ban P2P cryptocurrency transactions emerged just weeks after the Central Bank of Nigeria was compelled to publicly disavow a letter that purported to reverse a decision made on February 5th, 2021. As previously reported by Bitcoin.com News, the CBN officially lifted the directive at the beginning of 2024. The directive forced banks to exclude cryptocurrency entities from the banking ecosystem. Although the letter was ultimately dismissed as a hoax, many in the Nigerian cryptocurrency community argued that the incident had undermined investor confidence. Some speculated that the CBN had intentionally released the letter to gauge reactions before making a final decision. Meanwhile, a report from Tech Cabal on May 3rd revealed that Nigeria's Office of the National Security Advisor, which has influenced the country's policy on cryptocurrency transactions in recent months, has classified cryptocurrency trading as a national security issue. Such a designation could suggest that Nigerian authorities are considering a ban on peer-to-peer cryptocurrency transactions, said Tosin Eniolorunda, the CEO of fintech startup MoneyPoint. Eniolorunda also shared his insights on why Nigerian authorities are now keen to block P2P transactions. The NSA found a lot of accounts that were involved in crypto trading and blocked the accounts. They were worried that fintechs are rapid in opening accounts and told us to stop onboarding, the MoneyPoint CEO said. While no data has been specified, the report quotes an unidentified individual who claims that the ban is expected to be announced soon. And good luck in banning peer-to-peer. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. And, most of these peer-to-peer networks, like, BISC, for example, just exist. And there are many, many different ways to settle the transaction. And anyway, we wish them luck with that. Next up is from Decrypt. This was posted on May 3rd. Kind of an interesting article about MicroStrategy Orange. Everything you need to know about decentralized ID on Bitcoin. This was presented at a recent conference, I think, that MicroStrategy sponsored. Following through on hints that MicroStrategy would get into Bitcoin software development as the ordinals craze took off last summer, the company this week announced MicroStrategy Orange, a decentralized identity platform. The sprawling concept has applications for combating social media bots and spam, authenticating documents, and securing medical records. As the proposed specification for Orange went public on GitHub, it received a mixed reaction from crypto Twitter, in part due to its technical complexity of the plans. Here's a basic primer on the proposed digital ID system and how it ties into Bitcoin. MicroStrategy Orange is a Bitcoin-based decentralized identity system that was introduced by MicroStrategy co-founder and executive chairman Michael Saylor, alongside executive VP of engineering Cesare Raxo, at the annual MicroStrategy World Conference on May 1st. MicroStrategy Orange is an attempt to facilitate immutable or permanently fixed decentralized identities. These identifiers would then provide a way for individuals to control and verify their identity without relying on a central authority. MicroStrategy said the potential of MicroStrategy Orange and decentralized identifiers on Bitcoin could also be used to verify users on social media applications or authenticate text messages or medical records. For example, a social media app could verify users' DID on the Bitcoin blockchain and display an orange check to other users, or a medical record's metadata, perhaps a hash of its contents at a fixed point in time, could be stored on Bitcoin and used to authenticate its owner, and that it hasn't been modified. Public records like land and home deeds could also be inscribed on the Bitcoin blockchain. By establishing a decentralized identity system on Bitcoin dubbed DID BTC, users can benefit from the robust security and global decentralized network of the Bitcoin blockchain. According to MicroStrategy, DID BTC uses a modified version of ordinals inscriptions. And introduced in January 2023, ordinals inscriptions are digital assets, images, text, music, videos that are inscribed onto an individual Satoshi, the smallest denomination of Bitcoin. In the case of MicroStrategy Orange, the inscription space would be used to store DID-related data and updates. This identity, authentication, and verification information would be separate from other digital data, for example, images or documents, which would be stored elsewhere. As a result, DID authenticated files could be created and updated without hitting size or content restrictions, yet take advantage of the cost-saving mechanism introduced by the segregated witness protocol in the Bitcoin network. SegWit, introduced in 2017, increases Bitcoin's block capacity by separating signature data from transaction data, reducing transaction sizes and enhancing scalability. The preliminary draft of the Bitcoin Orange plan was published on GitHub, allowing public inspection, comment, and eventually inline discussion and collaborative edits. While largely technical, it covers several major topics, including how data would be formatted in Bitcoin inscriptions and its privacy implications. For example, the spec allows for updates to be made to DID BTC identifiers on chain. While the original DID identifier is immutable, the associated content and keys associated with it can be modified. Updates to DID BTC identifiers are made using JSON, a standard format for data exchange. In cases where an identity needs to be removed, meanwhile, MicroStrategy said a DID BTC identifier can be deactivated by spending it, setting a flag using residual UTXO, unspent transaction output. Reactions to MicroStrategy's announcement were mixed on crypto Twitter, with some Bitcoin enthusiasts saying DID data is not welcome on the world's dominant blockchain. It's a similar reaction that we've seen to the rise of ordinals inscriptions along with Bitcoin meme coins via the BRC20 and Runes token standards. Taproot Wizards CEO Udi Wertheimer joked that laser eye maxis who supported Saylor's sizable Bitcoin buys were in absolute shambles as their lord and savior brought institutional grade spam to the blockchain. I don't like shitcoins at all, but if I close my eyes, the speech sounds like it's coming from the US government, one post said, with another calling Saylor Fed Boy. WTF is this dog vomit trash? No, never, no, another replied. Saylor had honed in on the commercial implications of ordinals inscriptions as soon as they emerged, Bitcoin proponent and venture capitalist Preston Pysh pointed out. MicroStrategy did not say when the Orange protocol would come online and noted that information published on GitHub is an unofficial early draft. Even when finalized, there's no telling whether other Bitcoin projects, crypto platforms, or apps would make use of it. Yeah, so, there's a lot of angst over it. Putting your identity on the blockchain immutably, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't sound like it would be, but it's still there. Even if you spend it out, the transaction history will still be there. And I'm not sure like what data you would actually get from that other than a confirmation that you are you. But I don't know. I think I need to think about this some more. And obviously, there's nothing stopping anybody from building this type of thing on a second layer of the Bitcoin blockchain. Bitcoin is for everyone and anyone, and you can use it however you want. The real question will be, is there really a market need for this, and will there be market acceptance for it? That's the real question. But yeah, I mean, it's a free market, and you got to take the good with the bad, I guess, is kind of my initial take on it. And finally, from bitcoinnews.com, this was posted on May 5th. Pretty hilarious. So this just tells you how clueless some of the folks are that advise our leaders. Biden's economic advisor, this is a quote, "U.S. can't go bankrupt. We print our own money." President Biden's economic advisor, Jared Bernstein, has stirred up debate with his recent comments on the U.S. government's ability to print money. In a recently screened documentary, Bernstein's statements have drawn attention and criticism from financial experts and Bitcoin enthusiasts alike. In a documentary titled Finding the Money, Bernstein asserted the US government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money. This statement, while straightforward, has sparked intense backlash and raised questions about Bernstein's understanding of economic principles. The interviewer asks, they print the dollars, so why does the government even borrow? To which Bernstein replied, well, some of the language is just confusing. The government definitely prints its own money. The government definitely prints money and lends that money. The government definitely prints money. But then he pauses and asks himself, it then lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? After hesitation, he replies himself, they sell bonds and then people buy the bonds and lends the money. Yeah. Bernstein's comments have been met with skepticism, with many questioning his grasp of basic economic concepts. Some financial experts argue that his statements oversimplify the complex mechanisms of government debt and money creation. Bitcoin enthusiasts, on the other hand, highlight that this is the result of talking about the current monetary strategies outload. They don't make sense and are very illogical. Bitcoiners see Bitcoin's fixed supply limit of 21 million coins as a safeguard against the devaluation of fiat currencies. During the interview, Bernstein appeared to struggle to articulate his understanding of money printing and borrowing. In one instance, he rambled, the government definitely prints money and it definitely lends the money. Is that what they do? Yeah, they sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right, because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. His remarks have left many scratching their heads and doubting his expertise. In one awkward moment, he stumbled through the concepts, admitting, I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. In one instance, he stated that language and concepts could be unnecessarily confusing. This is what many Bitcoiners believe as well. They believe the wording and concepts around government's creation of money has been twisted and made deliberately confusing. The Bitcoin advocates believe that the simple truth is government creates money out of thin air without anything backing it and without limit, and this has led to money losing its value day after day. Critics have raised concerns about the potential dangers of Bernstein's views, suggesting that they could mislead the public and undermine confidence in the economy. Scott Melker, a prominent figure in the Bitcoin community, expressed his concern, stating, this is terrifying. This is the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, the agency providing the president with economic advice, who has no idea what he's talking about. Bernstein's comments have reignited discussions about the role of Bitcoin as a hedge against government spending and inflation. Bitcoin proponents argue that the digital asset's fixed supply makes it an attractive alternative to government-controlled currencies. The state of the economy is a pressing concern for many Americans, especially as the November presidential campaign intensifies. High prices and stubborn inflation have fueled frustration, with some attributing blame to President Biden's administration. Economic experts caution against oversimplifying complex economic issues. They stress the importance of understanding the nuances of government debt management and the implications of money printing on inflation and currency value. Bernstein's statements come at a time when the economy is a top concern for many Americans. Despite serving as President Biden's chief economist and chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Bernstein's lack of formal training in economics what? Has raised eyebrows, particularly in light of his struggles to articulate basic economic concepts. Some question whether he's equipped to provide sound economic advice to the administration. Well, I think we know the answer to that. All right, and then to finish up, I just want to highlight, and again, there'll be links to all of these in the show notes, everything I went over. If you want to check it out for yourself, I will also include a link to this week's featured post on the Bitcoin Fortress newsletter, entitled "The Cyclical Unraveling of Societal Institutions and the Rise of Authoritarianism: A Reflection on Recent Events." I was quite bothered by all of the protests and violence happening on our nation's campuses, universities, and colleges. And so, not so much about why they were protesting, because I don't really have an opinion on that. It's more about how it feeds into the cycle that we're in. And so anyway, check it out. And leave a comment or a like if you like it. And with that, I would like to thank you for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please like and leave a comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. I like to listen to Fountain, earn some sats. It's random, but you can earn a good amount of sats just for listening. You can also follow my Substack. Again, it's located at bitcoinfortress.substack.com. It's free, but you can also pay if you like what I'm producing. But I still make most of my posts free because I just want to get the information out. So you can also follow me on Nostr. I am Nostr only. My NPub is included in the show notes. And with that, I will talk to y'all next week. Bye bye.